You know, in the charter, they say the land of Israel is from the river to the sea. Complete extermination, erasure of Palestine and the Palestinians. Why don't you talk about
But it works both ways, I agree.
Why you don't talk about
that?
Why the world doesn't talk? And
if you ask me,
you know what's the difference? You know what's the difference?
There's no difference.
No, there is a difference. The difference is Israel is a state actor in the UN, so it has a set of responsibilities, while Hamas is a group.
But if you ask
want to compare Israel as a state actor,
but if you ask
compare it to us.
Okay.
Compare it to us. And ask me, what is our policy? Ask me, what is our vision? What are we doing for the last year? What we have done to contain the madness of Israel? That's the question.
So,
what's going on, everybody? Ambassador Husam isn't here to play games. He's here to drop truth bombs like their diplomatic memo. In this heated exchange, he lays out Palestinian side of the story with precision and passion, and a touch of exasperation. Being born in a refugee camp, he brings real questions. Is Piers actually buying any of it? Or is he just nodding along while his brain is buffering between interruptions, contradictions, and some classic let me respond moments? This debate takes a turn that even Piers didn't see coming. Buckle up. This was a roller coaster.
Hamas's charter said
this.
Hamas's charter, original charter, the complete destruction of Israel as an essential condition for the liberation of Palestine and the establishment of a theocratic state based on Islamic law.
I don't know where did you get that from. And
that's the original charter.
Who sent it to you? And we are not talking about this. Hamas or any other Palestinian faction, they must be part of our national institutions.
How can we not talk about
based on our acceptance as per the Palestinian national equilibrium, national consensus, that what we are after is the end of Israel's occupation that began in 1967, the establishment of a sovereign, independent Palestinian state on that land with Jerusalem as its capital, resolving the issue of Palestinian refugees in accordance with international law, respecting their right to go back to their homes and farms, and respecting international legality.
Let me respond.
Legality.
Let me respond.
Anybody who agrees with that and with our commitment is absolutely welcome.
Let me respond.
Leave it to us. Hamas is a Palestinian issue.
Okay.
But why aren't we discussing all the Israeli Kahanist groups in the government now? Hamas is not in government. Why aren't you?
Can I get a word in? Can I get a word in?
Ask me about Smotrich.
Ambassador, I'm going to. I'm literally about to tell you that.
Ask me about Ben
Let me speak.
Okay. Speak, please.
Literally about to say to you, there are many things I'm sure we find agreement on, not least the essential need out of this for a two-state solution. Palestine must have its own state. I believe that Netanyahu has to go. I believe Ben-Gvir and Smotrich and these right-wing headbangers on his cabinet all have to go. They have been talking in genocidal language. It's completely outrageous. And I think that Netanyahu, in his desperation to get back into power, did a deal with the devil with these guys. And we saw his attempts to thwart the power of the Supreme Court before all this, causing huge protests amongst his own people. So on all that, we'll be in agreement. The settlement expansion on the West Bank has been appalling and outrageous, right? On proportionality in Gaza, it's gone way too far, is my belief. But one of the things I won't agree with you about is that I think that on October the 7th, Hamas, by the scale of what they did and the glee that they showed in the way they did it, with their cameras showing everything proudly to the world, the kidnapping of over 250 people, including babies, Holocaust survivors, young women, the appalling abuse of women, the appalling way they gunned down and set fire to families. In that moment, they abrogated their right to have any power coming out of this. And I'm surprised that you, as the ambassador to the UK, think that they should have some power coming out of this.
Well, I told you that they are part of the Palestinian people. And at one point, dialogue is happening right now. And the dialogue has been taking a long time, so we make sure that we are in one ship. The ship has a captain.
But who will run Gaza out of this?
It is only the Palestine Liberation Organization, the State of Palestine, and the government of the State of Palestine, that is the PLO, that has formed of late, only 3 months ago, a new government made of technocrats. It's not made of Fatah or Hamas or any technocrats, professionals who can go and do the huge, humongous job of rebuilding Gaza, of providing recovery.
And who else has to help with that process?
Only Palestinians can only be governed by Palestinians, because
where will the money come from?
There are so many dubious.
Who's going to help you rebuild?
We have our own money that Israel is stealing right now. And by the way, Israel is not just waging war in Gaza; it's waging war in the West Bank. You mentioned the settlements.
Yes.
The settlements. There is the settler terrorism.
I think it's appalling, the settlements. Appalling.
Okay, no. But when settlers go to villages in the middle of the night and burn homes and cars and kill people, is that terrorism?
Yes.
Or what? Is that terrorism?
I think it is.
Can you say it?
Yes.
It's what?
I think it's terrorism.
It's terrorism. So, and who is sponsoring that settler terrorism? What's the state that is harboring?
I agree. Israel's allowing it to happen.
So Israel,
the government's allowing that to happen.
Excellent.
And it's completely wrong.
Excellent. So
it
this
is a
state,
terrorization of the people on the West Bank.
So
I agree.
This is a state-sponsored terrorism in the West Bank. But also, there is another war happening. Israel is trying to collapse the Palestinian Authority. They have withheld funding for months. Smotrich is on an onslaught against the Palestinian institution, so is Netanyahu. And the whole idea is what you just started by describing. They don't want to see anyone central.
I agree, they have to
anyone
go.
central, national.
But here's my point.
No, it's not about
I think
them.
they have
It's
to
not
go.
about them. No. But
well, it is about them.
No. Don't reduce it. We have a mindset. This has been for decades. That's a big mistake to think if Netanyahu goes, everything will be hubbly-bubbly. Everything will be just
I don't assume
rosy,
that at all.
rosy. We have a mindset to change in Israel, and that's why we have a plan. That's why we have a plan. And the plan is very clear. Number one, accountability, because we want to make sure that never, ever this will happen again. We need to see war criminals behind bars.
But how do you guarantee Hamas won't do what they did again? They've already said they want to.
Accountability. And what we need to do with the full force of the international law. We have courts. We establish courts together to make sure no one will get away with murder.
What did you feel about... Let me bring in Lebanon.
Don't block.
I've only got about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
I want to ask you about Lebanon. No. Right, and what's been happening there with their attacks on Hezbollah, the pager attacks with the walkie-talkies, and then the subsequent attacks to take out the leadership. They would argue from October the 7th onwards, the first thing Hezbollah did was fire a bunch of rockets at Israel. They've carried on firing them all year. And at some point, Israel, having seen 70,000 of its people displaced, is entitled to defend itself. Your response?
The same story. You know, Hezbollah was created in 1982 because of Israel's occupation, military invasion of Lebanon. And since then, Israel has been occupying Lebanon until 2006. Israel left Lebanon in 2006. There were a Lebanese area, according to the Lebanese Shib'a Farm, still Israel occupies, and that's the context. But you know, the first time we had this conversation, you and I disagreed almost on everything. How about we agree?
We have been.
No. How about this?
Do you think we have been in the last 5 minutes?
On some. How about we agree on some foundational? Because you know there is a lot of distraction and what's the word? Deflation. Let's agree on a few.
Okay.
Things. The first thing that we need to agree on is huge, unprecedented, historic injustice has befallen the Palestinian people for 100 years. Since the Nakba, at least, of 1948, and the mass expulsion, ethnic cleansing of 2/3.
Okay.
Then came the occupation.
Well, hang on.
Then came...
hang on. Let me respond.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, you agree. And you agree that Britain had something to do with that?
Yes.
Okay. You remember the Balfour Declaration? That was a colonial arrogance where we were cancelled as a people. So we were turned into non-Jewish minorities, when in fact we are the original people who lived there for millennia. Then came the occupation.
I would also point out, though, that hundreds of thousands of Jewish people were also displaced at the same time.
Displaced from where?
From their own homes.
No,
in Arab countries.
I'm talking about my country.
I know,
and
but I'm saying it wasn't
my land.
Yeah, but you're taking
my
it again.
father's land.
I know.
My father's home was taken.
I understand. But you're taking it in isolation.
And replaced.
What I'm saying is, in that period, hundreds of thousands of Jews were also displaced from their homes in Arab countries.
All refugees have the right to go back. All of them.
Disagree with that.
You agree with that?
I think the principle is sound. Yeah.
We have to be consistent here. So when I say Palestinian refugees, all refugees who have a righteous claim. Now, my father was born in Rafah refugee. I was born in Rafah refugee camp, and me and my father are only 40 minutes away from his original town, and he could never go back. Only once he drove me there before the 90s, so there were no checkpoints. We could drive anywhere, and he showed me his home. He showed me his farm, and as a child, I was looking around. He couldn't actually identify his home unless he found that fig tree somewhere there because he planted it. And as a child, I was 6, 7 years old. The one question in my head at that moment was, Father, why aren't we living here? It's beautiful, it's nice, it's green. Why are we in a refugee camp with all that? And my father couldn't answer that question for many years later because he wanted to shield me from that horror that he has gone through in 1948 and the Nakba. But then came the occupation. Do you agree that The rest of historic Palestine, the 22%, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza are occupied territory?
I think that there is an element of occupation that has been.
What do you mean element?
Well,
What's element?
As the debate wraps up, one thing remains unclear. Does Piers Morgan truly grasp the Palestinian reality, or is Rupert Murdoch's influence keeping him on a tight leash? He insists he knows history didn't begin on October 7th, yet every time Palestine comes up, it's like his brain factory resets, defaulting back to square one. Mr. Ambassador came in sharp, armed with facts, history, and relentless push for accountability. Piers, on the other hand, spent half the time nodding along, only to contradict himself moments later. Mr. Ambassador controlled the tempo, steered the conversation, and left Piers playing verbal catch-up on his own show. So after all that, did Piers genuinely wrestle with the truth, or was he just buffering between talking points? You decide, and let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, y'all, and I hope to catch you on the next one.